had indicated that after tea, we'll be getting Mr. Mzananda with the objectives of the session. However, as I indicated earlier on, that youth forum, mayingahambeli kude nathi. In fact, even the construction of this program, beimele baba involved. So, youth endala ephumayo, indikrwecile ke apha phandle, ukuba ukwenze ukuba kwenziwe ijustice kule assignment ka Mr. Mzananda, bacela uqale bavele. I think kule nto ine-objectives, there is indawo nje abafuna ke basikrobise kuyo. Then ke ngoku Mr. Mzananda uzawungena. Andinazi noba niphakamisani ke, Mr. Nkwentsha. Uba ke bekupha enkonzweni ke mna bendokuphamisa ngonoyana, andazi ke apha le youth yakho. But ke colleagues, let us call on Mr. Nkwentsha to just give us a brief, and then after that, Mr. Mzananda will come up with the objectives of the session. Aya ndizokunika le yam Bhem.
Thank you. I know about kuthiwa sendiphuma so baqonda mangabe selfaka negwijo ngoba sensendleleni ephuma. Andizuphuma and ke ndisengu 35.8 so ndiseselungelweni. Let me greet everyone. Okhona representation ka office ka MEC, representation office ka HOD, senior management, management and youth. Igama lam ndinguluvuyo Nkwentsha, ndisuka pha eBhisho. Ndandingu deputy chairperson ke we youth forum. Kwesasisayiqala. Chairperson sewashiya apha edepartmentini, so by virtue I'm assuming la duty yoba ngu-chairperson kuba akasekho apha. When we were tasked with starting a youth forum, we had the duty of developing a policy for the youth forum. So we had two questions that were fundamental in us constructing the policy of the youth forum. The first question was what, and the first question was who, and the second question was what. The who is who are we within the youth forum, and the what is our responsibility. In addressing the who, we went back, we analyzed societal issues and went back to the founding fathers of democracy yethu, because we found ourselves in a free society but confronted with so much challenges. As we journeyed back, sihambe sayofika kotatomkhulu onkosi uGcaleka, onkosi uRharhabe. They were the kings that started encountering a British colonial rule. At the time, yaqala very slow, but it became very rife in the 1800s. Apho uNkosi uHintsa was taking over kumaGcaleka. When Nkosi uHintsa was taking over, he was a youth, he was only 24 years of age. He fought British colonials to such an extent that ukufunyanwa kwakhe, it became a victory. Indobana bamthathe bamwelisa amalwandle bamnqumla intloko. They paraded his head as a form of a victory kubo, because he was one of the people that was steadfast in fighting for the land yase-Eastern Cape okanye yamaXhosa. I-leadership ke kaHintsa yayiqala eTranskei iyophela ngapha kwaseBhayi, between iJeffreys Bay neBhayi kukho omnye umlambo phaa kuthiwa yiBait Bridge. jula pha gqithi abantu abamhlophe ufika beyozibulala pha mhlawumbi ke bafela izono zabo because amagazi abo aphezu kwethu. He didn't struggle alone. Between Lebate Bridge and over the bridge to the Western Cape was the Khoi leadership. Zihambile ke ezi fights khange ziyeke. Onkosi uNgqika, onkosi uMaqoma, they were all fighting for land. Makhanda was friends with Dawood Stirman, enamwe ngaye i-airport yaseBhayi, who was a Khoi leader. These guys were steadfast and they were fighting for land. Sitheke xa kufika kule era ye-education, kwafumaniseka uba there are political leaders, those were traditional leaders, but they were clear in their mandate that the land is ours and every resource that is within this land belongs to us. Samuva saya kotata uMangaliso Sobukwe, which was the political era that was starting. Bona ke bafundiswe through the religious setup, bathi bovuka. Even the founding fathers ANC ngabantu that came through a background, a religious background. Even the ANC formation and most of the parties back then, EPAC and the like, they were formulated background, religion, but with one idea in mind: we are fighting for the future of our children. Because xa sinoyeka lo mhlaba abantwana bethu abazuba nangomso. uMangaliso Sobukwe, when he was arrested, there was a clause that was specially made for him, kwathiwa yi-Sobukwe clause, because he was arrested for 3 years. Xa kufuneka ekhululiwe babona ba akho nto izawulunga. They made a special constitution, a parliament, kwathiwa makubekho i-clause that will be specific to this gentleman. And at the time he started his revolution, he was very young. Uqale ese-40 i-revolution yakhe. So ndizama unixhobisa that as the youth, the revolution and the fights that you're going to start with, they start at a very young age. With solitary confinement yakhe, he was not allowed to engage with any of the prisoners. And every time xa begqitha oMandela, when they would greet him, afuneka akathethi nabantu. Wayevela phaka achola umhlaba phansi, awuwise. Uyaba conscientizer that our fight is about the land. Sagqitha apho oThembisile Hani, ndingumntana lapha ke. Every time kukho event apha eChris Hani, soloko ndibizwa apha ndiyabona uba igazi liyajiya kunamanzi, ndingumntana lapha eChris Hani. OChris Hani died fighting for the land. Obantu Biko died fighting for the land. If you would listen or you would watch on YouTube clips of Chris Hani, very tender age, but the articulation of what they want to achieve, it was profound. You don't find in this day and age a Bantu Biko or a Chris Hani at a university level. They are thinking broad about the societal problems that are facing Abantu Babo and what they could do to unleash Abantu Babo from those bondages. So these are some of izinto esinyathele phezu kwazo as la Youth Forum. Sanyathela ko Solomon Mahlangu, Albertina Sosulu, umama uMadikizela Mandela, and our phrase siyithathe ku Solomon Mahlangu. Every time we would have an event, we would have a reminder of a phrase. A phrase ka Solomon Mahlangu yayisithi, my blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom. We always stood upon that foundation, that this freedom that we have is not a freedom that came nje. Uba sicingise khona ayikabikho, mhlawumbi abanye kwi-youth apha kuni nizazibiza uba nizi-fighters. This notion yobana sizi-fighters silwela umhlaba, it's not a new notion. It's been there for generations and generations. Now, what we needed to remind ourselves is that we're coming from a lineage of kings and queens. We're coming from a lineage of people that stood tall and fought for what they believed in. So if mna the descendant yalondo, I need to understand that ndiziphatha njengenkosi. I cannot be moving around ndingekho sure ngestory sam. Even within the circles of public works, people need to see that this is a king. People need to see that Nizi queens walking here. So those were our definition of defining the who. We said this is who we are. So as we embark, see deal with youth issues within and outside of public works, we first need to identify who we are. Now, the identification speaks to the conduct. Ikhona speaker beske sayitacha lendo apha ngaphambili that yonke most of you you form the few majority of people that are employed amongst abantu abaninzi that are not employed. So xa ufike elokishini, xa ufike elalini, every single thing that you do, whether you know it or you don't know it, you are an inspiration to umntana okujongileyo. So kuza kubona indlela onxila ngayo umuntu aqonda ba ndibawela unxila ndifane nobani, because ukwindawo ethile has achieved into ezithile and wenza izinto ngento ezithile, wenza izinto ngendlela ethile. So whether you do good or you do bad, there's a person that is sitting, that is emulating you, aqonda ba apho ndifuna uba khona ndifuna ufana nobani. So when you become a king in a conscious mind, you then start looking at your surroundings and how you do things and how it impacts the people around you. So that was the who that we decided that when we formulate this policy, let us know who we are. The what. The what was analyzing what was happening around us. I think we formulated the policy in 2018. In 2019, there were GPV stats. Sorry, in 2017, there were GPV stats that proclaimed that the Eastern Cape, baphinde bayikhupha nakwi Sowetan this week, the Eastern Cape has the highest rate of gender-based violence in the country. I think about 22,000 women have been killed in the Eastern Cape in 2017 alone. These stats are more than the stats as a country yonke. So if we would separate Eastern Cape yodwa, sidibanise country yodwa, Eastern Cape doubles those stats. Now this is the home of legends. This is where proper men and women which came out of the Eastern Cape, have led South Africa, come out of. Is this what we've generated into? Those were the questions that we are asking ourselves. To say that child abuse, umntana una 6, ureychwa yindoda ena 25, okanye una 6 months, 6 years, it's something else, at 6 months. Now, these things are happening in our background, in our societies. The level of child abuse is happening here. The level of women abuse is happening here. What are we doing as the youth? Is our only concern upward mobility within public works? Is our only concern fighting with management yakwa public works so that sizokwazi uhamba siyohlala eBhayi sibe ne weekend away ye youth ibe yimbadla? Are we really dealing with the issues that we are supposed to be dealing with as the youth? Now zonke zinto stem from what our grandfathers were fighting for. We're saying at a tender age, they knew the fight that they were confronted with. So what is our fight in ngoku? What do we need to do as this youth? Singabonakala ingathi siyi collective encinci, but the power that we have in making impact out there, it's beyond the recognition yet. So as that youth, we made it a point that sizojonga certain pillars. We go out there, we do outreach programs that deal with these issues. We support NGOs, NGOs that deal with abused women. We support NGOs that deal with abantwana abahlelelekileyo abahlala kwezo ndawo. We support initiatives pet drives uncedisa abantwana basemakhaya abasezilalini. So we took it upon ourselves with the very little time that we had to say, let's formulate a policy, but whilst our mind is busy formulating a policy, let's have an action plan of doing A, B, and C. Unfortunately, COVID, yasiqhawula sikwiphulo lokurana as programs zethu, but we were running 1 or 2 programs esasiqinisekileyo kuzo ukuba will have an impact ekuhlaleni. We had partnerships, ne-NYDA. Most of our events, NYDA would be there. They would make it a point that ikhona contribution abayenzayo in changing the lives zabantwana basemakhaya. So in us crafting the policy, we had 5 pillars that we had. One was skills development within ourselves. Because if udinga uba leader, you need to be upskilled. Funeka uqinisekile ubana nobulapha, you are skilling yourself, but skilling yourself nobuphumile ngomso to be self-sustainable ngapha yangaphandle. Advocacy, it was touched on it. It was a bursary, nendoni, we form part of that. We assist in making sure that we reach the greater numbers. I think sike sanayo ne outreach. Sibiza abantwana nje around pha eBhisho, izikolo around iBhisho, saqhube yethu ngoku Mr Dingwa yaqhube yakhe ecaleni, siqhube yethu ngapha ecaleni, because we are saying sizamuncedisana naye. We want to reach those numbers angazukwazi uzifumana. We want to make sure that people are conscientized, bayayazi bakwenzeka ntoni. I-community outreach nazo besiziqhuba. Entrepreneurship development, kukho lento ke pha edepartmentini ebeyithethile uMr Kufa, i-equity, ne? Women, youth, ndondon. One of our programs was to say that because programs or EPWP and the like, the contractors as with database, we put our input there. In some of the companies as the Tatwa with database, youth companies are there. Kenyanga ka June, we wanted to push a drive HOD. Kukho wena ke chief, so ungu HOD namhlanje. We wanted to push a drive HOD that in the month of June, let us award tenders to youth, because ngenyanga ka August siyibonile uba abantu abangomama bayayifayithela uba i-tenders eziphumayo maziye kubantu abangomama. Sathi in the month of June makuqiniseke be priority ngabantu abatsha. Certain projects, certain things must be deliberate, because kwa i-procurement ngoku sifuna ukwenza i-deliberate procurement ye-transformation. So we said that i-youth mayibonakale footprint yayo, siqiniseke that entrepreneurs that are out there bayakwazi uxhamla kwi-opportunities ezikhona kwa-public works. Health and wellness, siyiqaphele into wangaba apha kwi-youth sinengxaki ye-mental health. We have a serious problem in mental health across our youth, because the level at which ngokusesicinga ngayo ingathi we've deteriorated from leyo yotatomkhulu. Sikhulu kwehla. I-freedom yethu isinike i-freedom yobana singakwazi uke sizikise ukucinga. Sifake izinto eziyi-priority in front of us and push those things to be our founding agendas in developing urhulumente. So we were saying that abantu abatsha need to have sessions where we engage as young people, where we talk openly ngengxaki esijongene nazo. We've got lots of problems that we are facing. Most of the interns upper HOD zifika zi-earna 5,000. Ingxaki ezijongene nazo back emakhaya, they are well above imali ezizi-earnayo. Sike sadibana nomnye umfana at one point kwakulapha eChrisani. Lo mfana i-security. At the time we engaged him. He's a young person, very nice chap, very humble. Uthi no, I'm tired, I'm quitting. Yayingekho nalento ye-350 ke back then. Xa sihlala naye sim-engage abesithi ingxaki zingapha ya, lento ingenayo ayikho. Sathi okay, masihlale phansi. Now what is your plan? Xa uhlala phansi uzawufika nisurvive ngantoni pha kokwenu, Because laying 3,000 uyifumanayo, at least there are things that you are able to do. Ngelinye ixesha kukho dadobawo no makazi. You need to be mhlawumbi a bit selfish in saying bana hey andikwazi uyenza yonke lento. Ukwazi uba no hayi. I know you want to please everyone, but ukwazi uba no hayi because at the end of the day this thing is going to break you. Uyabona umsebenzi mninzi ngapha ithi imali ifika nge 15 okanye nge 30 kungena i-SMS ba kancede okanye bayazi day before upay kucelwa 100 rand kucelwa 50 rand kucelwa le ubuqonda ba hey la muntu uyayidinga lando. But zizinto ezi that are killing us because we are not able to then survive ukwazi uzinavigate within the space. Peer pressures zizinto esijongene nazo. Ndanisithi ke Mr Kufa mna ndifike ndanenhlahla apha kwa buildings at least sifike sizi candidate kwakuthiwa sibhatalela ugxothwa at the time sasifika ubone umuntu unxiba umakhama, they change their clothes every day. Ubuqonda lo muntu pay 5,000 le yonke le mali ayipayayo iya kwamakhama. They akho kwanto umuntu akwazi uba naye. Anditsho uba umuntu makafike emsebenzini adlakazela, but we are saying mna ke ndiphume ezilalini umntana asezilalini andiyikhathalelanga loo nto. Seke wathi uMr Mduba kum Mfondini ayiyo le jini ubuyinxibe izolo le. Ndithi yo usothuka izolo ndiyinxiba iveki yonke nditshintsha isheti qha ndinxiba le jini iyi-1 iveki yonke nditshintsha isheti qha, you know, because you need to understand, you need to be stingy. So long as you clean and presentable akho sidingo to break the bank trying to impress other people. Because nabo babantu, they have their own self-conscious problems. Bazama uplease abanye abantu around them as well. So these were the things that we are saying as young people. Let us conscientize each other. So fika apha ufuna ukuplaya big. Okanye xa ufika weekendini ekuhlaleni ufuna kumiwe ngawo. You're gonna break mentally. So we were looking at these issues to say that these are the things that we are pressing on as young people, having those conversations. Ingxaki ezabantu abangosisi kubana ezabantu abangosisi, how do you feel? How are we treating you in the workplace? Siqala pha, uyabo? How are we treating you? Abantu would literally break down in front of us, Mr. Kufa, sihlale ecanteen, umuntu break it down by hey conditions endijongene nazo xa ndifika ndimenzela yonke into ubani but uyandibetha, you know. And there is nothing that we are doing as this youth forum to say, hayi kaloku sisi, wena uyaphangela. Uphangele burhulumenteni. Uyaqonda kukho abantu abaninzi abangaphangeliyo that are subject to abuse every day. You need to take a decision umse ngokumthanda gqithi ambombambisa. Uyabo? You need to ufumanisa ukuba bayoyika kwa aba sebefundile, sebe conscious. So zizinto besihlala nosisi bethu phansi to say, how do we help? How do we make the burden lighter? How do we ensure that nifila acceptable within public sector? Because apha kwa public works in the main, it is male dominated. So how do we bridge that gap to make sure that you feel comfortable and wanted as well? In technically crafting the document, we looked at the African Youth Charter amongst other documents as a corner. We looked at the National Youth Development Policy. We looked at the National Development Policy ka 2030, Vision 2030. So these were our founding blocks to say that this is what we envisage to do. So we hand over to you, youth, a well-crafted document in a form of a policy. Let document ayivalwanga because you are a new leadership that is taking over. You are supposed to craft your own direction. To say mhlamba bebengaboni kahle zikhona ezinye izinto ebebengaziboni. So this is the route that we are going to take as the youth to ensure that we reach our goal. But we wanted to conscientize you that ezi zihlangu nizawungena kuzo zizihlangu ezikhulu. Sicela uba ningazithathi kancinci niqonda uba ni-youth forum yozojiva kwa-public works. You are not a youth forum yozojiva kwa-public works. There are big society issues that we deal with. Eastern Cape is the most impoverished province up in South Africa. Ranka high in Limpopo currently. Imihlaba yakuthi ilele. The youth does not have a desire to work the land. How can we make it fashionable? We were partnering ne colleges, agriculture, colleges, Lovedale, to ensure that we make certain things fashionable within our youth. So the drives in nina, you will be engaging corporate. Those were some of the things that we're thinking about. Let's engage corporate, or Pick and Pay, on Don. They are buying from local areas. Izikolo, they need nutrition. How do we make use of the gardens as called emakhaya, so that youth yapha emakhaya ingaxhomekeki kwi-350 okanye ixhomekeke ku-government ikhupha isandla phaa. Noba umuntu unayo idigri yakhe elixesha engekalifumani ixesha ithuba lengqesho makaqiniseke uba igadi yakhe iyasebenza. Igadi zethu zonke phaa ekuhlaleni baziyasebenza. We are able to sell to Pick and Pay. We are able to sell to isikolo ikhaphetshu. We are generating revenue. We are growing co-ops. So these are some of the things that we are saying that as the youth, this is what we want to see. We want to see an Eastern Cape in action. We want to see young men and women within the Eastern Cape that have a vision of changing the situation yabantu base Eastern Cape. Ayonto yonke sizayifumana kurhulumente. If sicinga uba urhulumente has the resources to give us everything, siyadlala. But when I encountered a speech ska MEC wakwa education, I listened that there are billions that are plowed into a nutrition program yakwa public works. Yakwa education. And as messes that are there as Lalin, we are not tapping into those billions. They are going back to corporate or Woolworths or Pick and Pay or ShopRite. Because as is called, the order pa, kutengwa deliver. So we are saying, izinto that can be grown up ekhlalen. Aizo zinto bekufuz ba kude kunyuke kuyiwe ngapha. How do you make sure that plants zasemakhaya they are graded? So that nabantwana xa bezitya ezikolweni, you know that grades zenziwe ngendlela right. You are setting up pots of grading. Siyazi ba xa beplower bazofaka up ku-grade kujonga uba ukutya ku-right kudistribute kuyiwe ezikolweni. So these are programs that are sitting upon your shoulders to ensure that you are changing the situation yabantwana base Eastern Cape. Most of us are very fortunate, Mr. Goof. We were fighting against this thing at some point that most of abantwana that benefit from the public works program, bursaries, gabantwana babantu abakwi-public service. So we are saying that these bursaries are not reaching the masses that they are supposed to be reaching. They are not reaching ababantu that are supposed to be benefiting out of it. And tetanje nam, the beneficiary, kodwa utata nomama bebesebenza kurhulumente. So intoni that is different, and ndifike nda understand that hey, divale ithuba lomntu ebekufuza uba ulapha. So how do I then make it a point that I work 3 or 4 times as much as everyone else to ensure that I repay back lendo ndicinga uba ndiyenze wrong? Because we need to have a conscious ngoku sithi ebantwaneni babelungu buyisana umhlaba besithi hayi bebotatomkhulu abelungu ngoku nini. When you are working in government now, when you're buying the latest cars and the latest houses, ucinga umuntu olambileyo uzawucinga uba inoba ngumuntu omnyama ohlala kulandlu phaa etown okanye ngomlungu. They will not. When you are driving the latest car, ugqitha eBhayi, when they hijack you, abajongi profile whether ngumlungu okanye ngumuntu omnyama, they see a person who's affluent. So how do we make it a point that in our affluence, we address the problems as corner around, so that abantu bethu ingqondo zabo zizoba occupied. Umuntu angacingi okokoko ngoyoqhekeza indlu yakho okanye ngoyoqhekeza imoto yakho. Ingqondo occupied. There's something that they are doing. They are getting income. We have problems of drug use and needs amongst the youth yethu, especially the males. Drug use, rape, is very high. It means there's a mental problem with young men growing up. Men growing up are broken. So we have a role to play to ensure that we close that gap and ensure that abantakwethu siyazama ukubana singcibane nabo bakwazi ubana noko babe ngabantu abangcono kwi-societies zethu. Kukangako okusuka kula forum iphumayo. Besifuna nje uninika kubana xa nizawungena ningena ezihlangwini ezithanda uba zikhulu, ezidinga uba nikhule, ezidinga uba nimise ingqondo, ezidinga uba nicinge emva, ningacingi phambi kwenu, nicinge emva. Ngoba xa nijonga emva kude nizayibona indlela yaphambili. Enkosi. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. The Office of the MEC, the Office of the Head of Department, members of the top management and senior management of the department, colleagues. We've got guests amongst us. Yes, our guests. Good morning, colleagues. Okwam ke kulula kokubana ndichaze into bana what are the objectives? Why silapha? What is the aim of this session? Obviously, when we gather in the forum of this nature, we can't be gathering here without any objectives or without any reason. There should be a reason. So I'm just here to outline that. It looks like a londo. But before Mabnonkonzo, I do that, allow me to you know, when you work with and among young people, awukwazi ungawubeka umthetho, because you see, one of the characteristics of a young person is that they are chaotic by nature. Akhona into wrong up. It's natural. That's why I'm saying by nature, young people are chaotic, and they have to be chaotic, because if they are not chaotic, then it means they are abnormal. There's abnormality. Once umuntu omtshanga biko chaotic, abnormal lo muntu. Igazi labo warrants them to be chaotic. It ke lonto funeka ubeke imigaqo when you're dealing with young people and you are among young people. Babeke lo mgaqo ba makusetyenzwe ngolu hlobo. Le i-right ningayenza, le i-wrong ningayenzi, and so on and so on. Andizuchaza zonke ke za house rules, zawuchaza le yokuqala nale yokugqibela. I-worst le yokuqala ingathi bayifundela abantu abatsha le yokuqala when they gather ngolu hlobo, ingathi bayifundela into yobana bangabikho punctual, ingathi bayixelelana uba kuthiwa kuqalwa ngo-9 sofika 19:30. sizawufika ngo-10 okanye. Ithi ke loo nto kubaluleka into yobana mayi-emphasize laa nto. You see, there's something that people do not understand or do not realize, that le nto yongabikho punctual, noba kuphi, noba kusecaweni, noba kusesikolweni, noba kuseshibhini, abantu abahamba eshibhini, bawufika ngexesha phaa, khona into eza kuphosa phaa. And uba kufika ngexesha phayana, iziphumo zokungabikho punctual kwakho azi-affecti only la session ngelaa xesha ukulo, zi-affecta ixesha elizayo, future yakho. For an example, uba ngaba sikho punctual ngomso, izawubangela into yobana ngomso siphume late apha, uphoswe yinkomo exhelwayo phaya elalini, ufike sekutyiwe phaa ngenxa into yobana kaloku khange ube punctual. Saqhuba thina apha kwabethu 4, wafika inkomo seyiwile phaa kokwenu. Yabona izawuaffecta i-future time yakho okanye i-future yakho. So ibalulekile into yoba punctual, ngoba ayichaphazeli ngeli xesha, ikuchaphazela kwixesha elizayo. Siyayicela ke loo nto le, masibe punctual. Ngomso uba ngaba kuthiwe ngo-9 apha, sesifike apha ngo-9 nanini na. Bangaba kuthiwe, you see every one of us, what God, one of the multi-million things that God did when he chose to create esi species kuthiwa ngumntu, wathi uThixo uyakuzalwa ngexesha elithile. Zangaphelele nje ukuthi uza kuzalwa ngemini, wathi ngexesha, each one of us unexesha wazalwa ngalo. Waye-adressa laa nto uThixo, punctuality, because wayeyazi into yobana usityebi mzananda funeka azalwe ngalaa nyaka, ngalaa 12 o'clock ebusuku, because 1 minute past 12 uThixo is busy with something else. Ubana ngaba kayenzanga laa nto ngelaa xesha, izambangela into yobana la 1 minute past 12 angayenzi laa nto funeka yenzile. That's the importance of punctuality. Funeka siyazi ke loo nto, colleagues. Andithi ndi-perfect xa ndigqibelisa. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm punctual always. Ndikhe ndilahle nami ixesha. If I don't always do, who knows? Yes. Le yokugqibela ke, i-maximum participation. Into benzawuthetha ngayo apha, lo mgaqo ukugqibela funeka uthethile apha mama Nonkonzo notata kufa apha. Bethetha nge-expectations ezilindelekileyo, nami zawutatsha kuzo apha xa ndithetha ngezi-objectives. I-maximum participation, ningayibhidanisi ne-enforced participation. Maximum participation. Nobody is enforced to participate. We can't force you to participate. Ngoba xa unyanzela umuntu uba makayenze into, okanye makathethe ngafuni, uzawubhuda. Iziphumo zobhuda ke zininzi. Xa ubhuda ngenye ixesha uyaba mislead abantu ngenye ixesha. You mislead other people. Once uthethe into ubhude. There are 85% chances that you will mislead other people. So that's why mna ndingayithandi into yobana umuntu xa engenanto othetha ngathethi, but I encourage maximum participation. Maximum participation is that masiqinisekiseni ke into yobana ii-presentations, intetha ezizawuwa apha, hayi man, makubonakala uba kukho abantu endlini, sizithathe lapha. Ndiyayicela ke loo nto leyo. Umntu abe nesazela, nangona unganyanzelekanga uba maparticipate, but ube nesazela sobana maniparticipate. You must have that consciousness to participate in gatherings of this nature. Ndiyazi ke le nto lena, manecima apha. Itya nexesha la punctuality. Yes. Sorry, bra. Bengicimba ke mabhayi uzondincedisa apha. Masimuveni ke siye kwi sexesha selimkile manje straight kwi-aims and objectives. I-aims and objectives okokuqala is to reinforce an ethical behavior by young people in the workplace. You have almost steps, right? You have steps. No teta kakhulu pha uyazibona songena kakhulu ku-National Youth Service NYS leya yokuqala nenye apho uzayibona la forge partnership, collaboration and cohesion, social cohesion among stakeholders to promote youth participation and representation in all strategic positions. Uyazibona songena kwinto ze-NYS. Kaphinde tata. On my right. Dinayi committee apha? Make. Committee land iglass man lena man Dlamini. Iglass ye-wine le Dlamini. So the second aim and objective is to trigger consciousness of young people in order for them to participate and contribute in government youth development agenda. That consciousness. This session seeks to trigger that consciousness so that you are able to participate and contribute the agenda, department. Youth development because the department has got a particular agenda and a specific agenda the youth development. Iphinde vele ke kwakhona tabs around the promotion of nation building, social cohesion and responsible citizenship among young people. It all has got to do with irresponsibilities that we communities we have to be responsible as much as funeka se responsible nasesicaweni naphi napho sihamba khona. We also from this session wish to foster a consensus on priorities to be addressed and package messages that promote youth development in the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure through understanding of the strategic objectives. Yabona ba utata kufumana vela qho nakwi packages again ngithatha kazi nami packages yabo because what the department offers apha package ekhoyo apha. So the package then you have to address you want to foster a consensus so that how do we address the package, how do we deal with that package, see convert izoba into progressive. We want to share ideas and information in an endeavor to address challenges facing young people in this current century. Commissions outline as a breakaway sessions. That's where we have to take up the issue interaction that I'm talking about here, sharing ideas so that we know what are going forward, how to address these challenges. Lastly, we want to inform young people about initiatives and opportunities offered by programs for the development of youth. I'm sure there will be programs, departmental programs that will be presenting here. As a presenter, Mr. Ngwenja, they will be presenting here. So we have to understand that through those presentations, they will be informing us. I think, Mam Kaluza, those are the objectives. Those in the main are the objectives. Informing this session, Mr. Ngwenja Njababe Chilo Nai. The session is informed by a number of prescripts. I'm sure it's more than 30, 40, but I've just indicated how many, 6, just highlighted 6 of them. One being the integrated youth development strategy, the current one that we are busy with here. I'm sure Mr. Maobe from NYDA will elaborate slightly on that. The National Youth Policy 2030 visions. Those are the 2 documents busy implement as government departments in as far as youth development issues are concerned. Pillars both 2 documents have got the same pillars. The National Youth Policy and the Integrated Youth Development Strategy. Also informing this session is the Provincial Youth Development Strategy. We do have our strategy in the province the Provincial Youth Development Strategy 2016-17. Asivelang? Oh, avuvezwa njani? Nazo. Thina singavelanga nje. Ima. Awuklika kuzo. Siyeke. Okay. Thina singaveli nje. Okay, idea gil project in Ireland. So another prescript, colleagues, is the African Youth Charter, as Mr. Ngwansha has mentioned, that informs us, that informs our gathering here. And lastly is the NDP 2030 vision as well, the National Development Plan. Those are the prescripts that informs our gathering here, why we are gathered here, but and as well as many others that I've not listed there. I think colleagues mandime apho ezinye nezinye izinto mhlambe zawucaca when we're dealing with commissions. Yes, I thank you very much.
No, Mr. Mzananda. Colleagues, from the inputs esizifumanayo apha, and especially from the input ka Mr. Nkwencha, I want to go back to what I said earlier on, that colleagues, members of the Youth Forum, it is really becoming apparent that there is a gap kule formulation yale program, yale event esikuyo. When you look at the topics that have been identified, which are 2 for breakaway sessions, I'm getting a feeling that a lot has been left out, what needs to be discussed and resolved on here and come out as a program of action. So what I earlier requested the members of the Youth Forum to do for us, please take it up. What I earlier requested the members of the Youth Forum to do is to form their own secretariat that's going to assist with the capturing proceedings, as we are also doing from my office. So what I'm going to request, colleagues, is that in between, you try and have a silent conversation on these breakaway sessions, the topics, Mr. Nkwencha. What kind of topics is our senza siphume sinale program of action that talks to the issues, the critical issues that we are raising here? So can we please try and have that kind of conversation amongst ourselves so that we then give guidance on the group discussions we are going to have. Colleagues, let us welcome our colleague from NYDA, Mr. Vuyisa Maobe has arrived. I will allow you to speak just shortly, Mr. Maobe. I was sensitized to the fact that you may need to leave the session earlier than we had anticipated. Please do indicate when that time arrives. But what I'm going to request, colleagues, is that now we take the office of the MEC, and immediately after that we take Mr. Maobe, and then we open up a plenary. Secretariat, what we're going to do during that plenary is to sift issues that would be emerging, tallying them with the issues that we've already sifted from the inputs that were made, and then the process and the how do we rearrange these group discussions such that before we break for lunch, we are able to then give guidance ukuthi group discussions zethu zizawuma kanjani. So please, if we can then assist each other on that. Mr. Sochongaye, may I please call you to the podium to present the message from the MEC? Thank you.
Yeke mhlekazi. Yeke. Chairperson of the session, senior officials of the Department of Public Works present here, NYDA, OTP, youth, and the other guests invited to this occasion. I greet you all in the name of the toiling masses of South Africa. Mine is not that much. I am representing the office of the MSC, as you have heard Ms. Kaluza when she was instructing me to take the podium. I am not the MEC. I am representing the office. You'll understand that each department has got its own MEC and the office. So the office is not walls, but people who are making it possible that there is something happening. People who make it possible that the citizenry of the country, of the Eastern Cape in particular, receive what they deserve. So this is why I'm standing in front of you. Wonke ke umuntu uqala abe mtsha before abe mdala. Besike sabatsha ke nto zakuthi nathi. Yes. Besike sabatsha. Ngoku yasasibatsha ke nonkonzo. Sasingazifaka izibheks. Kodwa bose sibadala siyazifaka izibheks. Yeah. No, in a lighter note, umuntu ufaka izibheks nobungakanani. Ezalwa xa kufuneka ezifakile uyazifaka. But as one grows, it is also one of indicators that ukufa, that umuntu uyakhula xa at a certain stage. Amane sithi hey diphatheleni izibheks zampa. Yabo ke xa sihamba ke tata ukufa siyaziphatha sizifaka bepokothweni uqomba hey kuzawuba kwindawo kufuneka manje ndijonga ngazo. Okokuqala man, this is not a lecture, and even if it was a lecture, I always believe in a two-way process tata ukufa. I always believe in that. Probably, it might be as a result of my profession. I don't like a situation where there are people who are attentively listening and not participating. I want us to adopt this approach of engaging. Very few things that I want us to reflect on as this youth of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. Are you really the youth? as per definitions by the United Nations, and as well as per the definitions by the other member states of the United Nations. If we agree that we are the youth, can we say who is the youth as this house? Ndifuna umuntu onethuma mina ke kuye athi iyouth ngumuntu otheni. It's your turn. You can raise your hands, or else you let me point to the person. Yeah, to say something. This is a two-way process that we're using here. We have to employ different methods. And one of those methods will be the Socratic method. We'll have to liaise, we'll have to interact. Amen here. Who is the youth? Ngumuntu otheni youth? Sanujonga phansi man. Masitheni qwa. Ndinibone ngocula nihleli phansi. Akuculwa umuntu ehleli phansi. You stand up, you sing. Yes, bra. Thank you. Any other dissenting view from how he describes youth? Yes, madam.
Okay, so I think I was actually going to share up. I was thinking about it when there were introductions to the whole session. Ukuthi how like ngabantu abatheni that are classified under the category of being youth. So you'd look at it from an age category, and normally it varies from one department to the next. Okanye one situation to the next. Like for example, in Gonzweni you have the congregation classifying the youth in a different category, and at work it would be a different category. And you mentioned according to the World Health Organization, it's also a different category. So I just had to quickly Google it, and it seems that World Health Organization needs from 14 to 24 years old. So it's I'm not so sure in relation to public works in essence.
Thank you. You see, what I like most is that there is no wrong answer in all what you're providing for this session. Mosukundo kuthiwa OBE, andithi? Kwi OBE mos wena Mama Mandela. It is said there are no wrong answers for as long as you are able to motivate your assertion. So if you so assert that a youth belongs to the age group between 14 to 24, it is correct because the United Nations organization says a youth, it is within that bracket. However, without any prejudice to other member states of the United Nations. For example, in South Africa, a youth, ngabantu abaneminyaka emingaphi kanene? Is it? Not 15 to? Come again? Where do you get that? Where do you get that? There must be a source. No, you know, I belong to a certain school which believes in empirical evidence. So you must be able to say, according to a particular source, it is said or it is believed that. This is how we should be thinking these days. This is how we should be viewing issues. Because you will meet people who argue against you, and you will be found napping because you don't know the source from which you have lifted your answers. So you must be always innovating, researching, ensuring that your information is evidence-based. This is the youth I need as the office of the MEC. This is the youth I always expect to interact with. You must be challenging. Uke wathi ke Mr. Ngwenja, there is youth beyond the prescribed age. Nitipela kubani youth? 30? 34, 35. Thank you. Thank you. You are all right. You are all right for as long as you believe that it is. But lower uti 34, his or hers is evidence-based. Yes. Ours, tenacity 35, it's based on nothing. But practice. See what? And it's based on nothing but practice. This is what we're saying in South Africa, that see youth, especially our organizations, that is the civic organizations, including those that I belong to. Mose ndingumhlali ne? Njengomhlali ndikwi-civic. And above being umhlali, zikhona izinto that ideologically compel me to belong somewhere. So the ideology itself drags you as the youth of South Africa, as the youth of the Eastern Cape, to belong somewhere. You have to belong to a particular class. So youth mos, jeba slap. That go find it to say youth? Yes. Akekho umuntu ongeyo youth, umuntu ongeyo youth befamba ke zanga. Sithe apha. Konke andithi when you were schooling me, you said IYDS, NYS, or NY what? P. That is what you were saying to me. Okay. I like izinto ezichallengeayo naturally. I like into ezichallengeayo naturally. Zintoni kanene? I'll accommodate you. You were not here when I started speaking here. Probably you belong to what Mr. Mzananda was saying, that a youth is, what were you saying? Chaotic. Do you agree that youth is chaotic? Very much chaotic. Fluid as well, eh? Yeah, that's what characterizes youth. fluidity. Because youth mos it's a transition. Transition. Phakathi kobuntwana nobudala. That is from childhood to adulthood. Adult iqala kubani kanene? Which age? Huh? No. When we talk of an adult, which age i-adult eqala kuyo? 20? 5? 18 ne? Omnye uthini? 21 ne? Sure. Ni right nonke? Ni right nonke? Mamelani ke. Ndifuna ubuze enye into again, out of what I'm asking, so that you contextualize everything you speak of. You don't just throw words to say, I am youth, I'm an adult. Is there a difference between an adult and the youth? Is there a difference between the two? Adulthood and childhood. Must start in 3. Safety. It's a child, ne? Youth. Adult. What is the difference between the 3? What is the difference between the 3? Any two mamina? Yes, sir.
I think kuthetha ngokutshala umntana ungakwazi uzithathela ziqingo. That is 18 and less, 17 and less. Sithike ngumntana nje.
So 18 upwards, which means youth and adult. Zihamba that is zihamba indlela eyi-1. Ungafika 18 umdala, we adult, but at the same time we youth. Ngokuba mathoti kwakho andiyazi zahlukanisa njani, but xa youth is not that umdala, but usekula bracket ye-youth, although we adult. Then bekhona ngoku adult engapha kwala bracket yoba youth. I think so.
Thank you. 2 hands.
I think the term youth refers to a transition. Now, you might be a child, but then as long as that child is in a state of transitioning to a different stage, that is part of youth. That is, in my view, youth has a lot to do with viewpoint and the changes you're willing to do in your life and in your surroundings. And therefore, that structures you as a youth within that particular stage that you're in. If then you are a child and you are transitioning into adulthood, you become youth. So these are all interlaced.
Thank you.
Good morning. I think in terms of age classification, I would say youth is a bracket within adulthood, as much as the elderly are also a bracket within adulthood. In terms of the mindset, it's a transition, as the previous speaker said. And I think it implies many things, for instance, that such as a revolutionary mindset and how we tend to tackle issues. Sometimes the youth are also considered as impatient. If I could, let's say, refer to what led to the establishment, for instance, of Umkhonto or Mandela. Because they started to see that the ANC, then the elderly members leadership were passive on certain issues. And then they decided, no, we'll establish a youth league so that we can be more proactive on how we take the oppression of our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, this is what I wanted from you. That you actively participate. You know exactly what you're dealing with. You know the elephant in the room that we have to deal with. Because if you don't know it, you won't be able to concentrate on the development of the strategy itself. Because you don't know for whom are you developing the strategy. Because you don't know the youth. Because we're saying that we're developing an integrated development strategy for youth. But if you don't know who the youth is, will you then be able to deal with that? You have to take concrete facts around which you are developing the strategy. You have to understand, for instance, if we are all in agreement that today the population of South Africa is around about 60 point something million. And then you've got a youth which is about 20.7 million out of 60 million. And then you have to try to juggle with many questions, of course, in trying to figure out who makes the majority of the population of South Africa. Who makes the majority of the population of the whole world? It is youth that makes the majority of the population of the whole world. And therefore, you have to know what are their needs, therefore. Are we meeting their needs as government? If we don't meet their needs, what strides have we made in trying to come closer to meeting their needs? The majority of the population. And if you allow me to take a quote from Lenin, Lenin says one day, give me one generation of youth. One generation of youth. And I will be able to transform the whole world. One generation. What it means is that if you have youth that knows its very existence, if you have government that is committed to ensure that the country's future is not getting destroyed, we have to take care of youth. This is the commitment, Mr. Luza, that we have to abide by as the department, that ours is to ensure that we transform the Eastern Cape through utilizing youth by ensuring that they get what they deserve. But it should be through hard work. It should be through efforts. It should be through dedication. Siyavana mos. This is what we all should be worrying, should be worried about. And when we talk of youth, we don't think about ourselves in this room only. We think about the entire youth of the Eastern Cape. Not us. Yabona ke kukho abantu abathi nothing without us. Sislogan sabanye abantu, nothing for us without us. But there are those abane selfish interests who will always say nothing without us. Nothing without us simply means that everything that has to happen, it has to happen because you are part of it. And if you're not part of it, it must neither be there or else there must be nothing done because we are not there. That is a wrong premise. If you define yourself within this bracket of youth, you must be an instrument of change. You must be a change agent. You must be willing to be utilized for the benefit of the many without necessarily you benefiting. This is the youth we need. Outside there, youth is languishing in poverty. Outside there, women are in misery. They need our help as the youth of this country. Because the future of the country is in the hands of this youth. Go out there, help them, make them proud that with you having contributed in their livelihoods, their lives have really changed. That's what we need from the youth. How do we do that? Many of us, as the youth, we complain a lot. We complain a lot. Our complaint is that our needs can never be met in South Africa because South Africa is corrupt. Our needs cannot be met in the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure because Public Works and Infrastructure is corrupt. Who is corrupt? It is you, an individual, not the department. Change it to be what we want. Change it for the next generation, for the next generations to come. It might be in this situation today because you are there and you are selfish. You're only happy when you receive and you don't want to give. We are not employed to be selfish servants of government. We are employed to change the livelihoods of the people of the Eastern Cape entirely, not ours. If we are youth, we are the youth as is described by our app today. Let's make change when we come out of this meeting. Let's ensure that the strategy that we are workshopping about talks to the real issues. Because if the strategy doesn't talk to the real issues, it means we are just crafting a document that will be put in the cupboard for years, and you only think about it when you're about to review it. For example, the strategy that you have today. And I've been in this department for 2.5 years. I never heard you about talking about this. It's for the first time. And let's pray that it's not for the last time hearing about it. Yingxaki esinayo ke manene nani manenekazi yinto yokokuba we craft documents eziglossy, documents that talk to the issues, but we fail to implement them. If you are a youth in the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, I must be given a hope today that you will make a point that there is no document that lies dust without you implementing it. Let's implement documents. One other thing that is very much critical about this strategy that you have, speakers before me have said something about them, that it talks to sustainable development goals, which if you go there, what we're calling SDGs, that move your sustainable development goals. Or SDG 4 talks to you as the youth, because it talks to quality education. What it needs us to do to ensure that there is quality education, what it requires us to do is to ensure that, Mr. Bufa, Mr. Dingwayo, the bursaries you talk of is not a lip service. And the bursaries we talk of are given to the deserving students. They are not given to students because they are within our proximity. We have to do away with proximity. We have to ensure that those given the bursaries are deserving, are really feeling the pinch of poverty, are really feeling that misery, are really languishing in poverty, inequality. So if you give them bursaries, it means you are then intervening. You have the intervention strategies. You also take into cognizance that there are those who obtained their degrees 10 years ago. They are not working. They are relevant. But there are those who did not and who don't get jobs. Qualified as they are, relevant as they are, but because they lack proximity to those in power, they cannot get jobs. Why? In our lifetime, during our tenure, we allow such things to happen. Even though we know that you do qualify, but because I know that lady, he's a friend to my family or to my aunt, I therefore have to handpick her. At your own expense, uqualify unjalo, enga qualify enjalo, but because she knows that she is closer to a person in power. Let us fight that. Once again, Mao Zedong, the chairman of China, talks to the students in Moscow in 1957. Students mostly. The assumption is that youth, and it yi-assumption ndivumele nditsho nam mos ndingasi-student ndingeyo-youth but relevantly so he says the world is yours as well as ours, but in the last analysis it is yours. When talking to them, he knows exactly that they are the ones to live longer than the elders. So hence, giving them the world. Hence, saying that the world is theirs. He goes on to say, you young people, full of vigor, as you correctly put it, vitality, are in the bloom of life, like the sun at 8 or 9 in the morning. Our hope is placed on you. The world belongs to you. China's future belongs to you. We are not in China. We are in South Africa. South Africa belongs to you. It is you who are tasked with shaping your future. We as adults are no longer relevant in future, but we are just there to assist you in molding you to fit in your world to come. The world is yours. South Africa belongs to you. Allow me to repeat it, South Africa belongs to you. Some of you do fail to understand that it belongs to you. You keep yourselves busy with issues ezingani funi kangako. Nakula nkonzo ndihamba kuyo sisinonkonzo. Yabona ke kula nkonzo ndihamba kuyo. You even see them wanting to dictate as to what must happen. Ila nkonzo ndihamba kuyo. Forgetting that their dictatorship today will impact on their future. It would be better if a dictatorship yabo be based on correct premise. It must be based on your correct premise, a dictatorship, because you're taking care of your future. You are mitigating, you have to mitigate, always mitigate where you are. Uti into yethu le ningayimoshi. Nizayishiya kuthi. Nathi xa siyibuyisa siyibuyise iphelele, not in pieces. Siyibuyisele kuni. Bendimamele kapha uMr Nkwentshe ethi ubuyisa into yenu kuni. You must take care of it. Mna ke yona nto ndithi yeyenu. It is this country. You see? Ndiyayithanda esa slogan tatukufa esithi kwenye inkonzo endikhonza kuyo. Socialism in our lifetime. Ungafuni ubona ubuwenye bezitrato zegolide after death. You must realize those things today. We say, build it now. If you don't build it now, you will never be able to do that in the future. See youth mos. Siyavuma. Vumani bu. Okay. Okay. You see, I was trying to align one of the pillars of the strategy with SDGs. Jawaben City, quality education. You must always align these things. The 2030 agenda is yours. Icho the United Nations cited iti 2020 agenda ye youth. And youth, if it doesn't seize the moment, nizochaneka. And that 2030 agenda includes everyone. It does not leave anyone behind. You are part of it. You are part of it. At work, trainings. At work, trainings. Mazibe yenye intervention strategy to ensure that there is quality education. Because you want to build entrepreneurship. You want to ensure that there is decent work. As per SDG number 8, decent work and economic transformation. That's what we must know by heart. What it means when you talk of economic transformation. You don't talk to reforms as we see today, implemented by Treasury, National Treasury. We don't see economic transformation, but what we see are the reforms as austerity measures, which close your chances to get employed. There's high unemployment rate today. Why? As if we don't plan. A macroeconomic strategy or macroeconomic policy of the country eating. We left the RDP. RDP, which was at least having a direction, and we opted for gear. Yeah, without much ado, yours is to seek for intervention strategies as DPWI. Is it enough that we only see abantu sithi bayasebenza through EPWP? What about us having an inclusive economic strategy that talks to the real issues on the ground? That's all what we need. Uzoye kubona abantu abanxilayo, abanye mosi udanga phangeli ngoba unxilile ngomvulo. Ngolwesibini unebhabhalaza benxilile ngomvulo. Ngolwesibini unebhabhalaza. Ezo zinto ke azikho kakhulu kwabasebebadala abantu. Zikwaba kuthiwa youth. Ilishwa elikhoyo tata kufa. Iliso lam ke libanzi tata kufa. Ndiyabona kukho into ekuthiwa student accommodation. Fike ke ngokuloo ndawo. Kuyaselwa kakhulu kwezo ndawo. Kusela abantu nithi youth. Bahleli wodwa. Abaseli bayagalela. Udibana naye. Uyintombazana, uyinkwenkwe bayafana. Akakho nqando umnye. Make sinqandeni. Ilizwe lethu liyadegenerate morally. We have to ensure that there is moral fabric in all what we are doing. Sisinonkonzo. Mandihle. Ndishiye nje into ethi i-demands zabantu abatsha ezinye zazo when they demand, they say, paraphrase, we demand more just, equitable, progressive opportunities and solutions in our societies. So if you underline these keywords, you will then be able to say, how then do we meet these demands as the youth in the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure? Ndithatha izipeks zam sisinonkonzo. Ndithi kuni, even though our youth have potential to transform Africa, if neglected, they could exacerbate poverty and inequality while threatening peace, security, and prosperity. So Graka Machel says, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sochongaye. Ndithetha kaninzi ke ngoku. Icofwe phi ke enye okanye mandithulise le. Okay. Colleagues, the beauty of integrating generations is the kind of inputs that we receive. Andizukuwamosha, Mr. Sochongaye, but I'm going to request that all this be taken further to a plenary session. Colleagues, I am now going to call upon our colleague from NYDA, Mr. Maobe, to come up front. As he is coming up, kukho itender endicela uyikhupha. Kukho itender endizayikhupha apha ye facilitation. Immediately Mr. Maobe egqiba, I want us to get into plenary. Ndicela ukukhupha itender ye-facilitation yala session ye-plenary. Ndicela i-volunteer to facilitate those discussions. Nilapha ngokonyulwa ngothenjwa. Ndonikila ke mna kwabantu banonyulileyo ba wethixo uthi wothi maba-facilitate nje i-session babheke phansi bonke. Ndicela umuntu ozawufacilitator le session ye-plenary. Okay. Imimani, oh, thank you very much, colleague. Thank you.
No, I'm sorted, yes. Thank you, Program Director. To the Management of Public Works that is here, other stakeholders, Office of the MEC, officials from Public Works, the youth at large I greet you this afternoon. My name is Vuisa. My name is Vuisa Maobe. I'm from Willowvale, Dingwakajane. I'm working for National Youth Development Agency. I'm based here in Trisani. We're responsible for Trisani, all the local municipalities that covers by Trisani. We also work as far as Jokabi because we still have not have an open office in Jokabi. I was hijacked by Mr. Skyebi last night. He called me around about 9:30, so. But I said, because sithetha ngabantu abatsha, that it's okay, Mr. Skyebi, I'll be 8 o'clock, I'll be in Queen's Casino. Then 7 o'clock, boom, load shedding. Ndaphinda ndamthumelela Mr. Skyebi a half cut head. Bana, hey, Mr. Skyebi, kubi. So that's why I was late. Apologies, Mr. Skyebi, for delaying the program. We've been invited as NYDA to come and present the Integrated Youth Development Strategy 2022 to 2025. And I believe when you're formulating your own departmental strategy, youth strategy, you will also need guidance in terms of the Integrated Youth Development Strategy. And I was also touched by umhlekazi wami lo bethethe eqaleni phansi umthwalo wona mninzi. When it comes to youth development, umthwalo mninzi. That's why we say we also calling upon the private sector. That's why we're working together with other government departments. So yeah, umthwalo mninzi wona. So I'm happy when I see other government departments. They also got their own youth forums to assist NYDA. Mr. Uputilo Bethetile, Uchilo Gawati, he used to work with NYDA as he was serving on the youth forum. We still have those relationships with other offices. We still have those active forums with other government institutions, which at least they ease the workload for NYDA because we have got only offices that are based on district level, whereas we're working as far as Elliot and also Matli and other towns that are very far from Queenstown. So we do have those youth forums that are still active. As I said earlier on, that we have been invited to come and present the Integrated Youth Development Strategy, so that when you take this journey, when you plan for your own departmental youth strategy, at least you have got something that will guide you on how to plan moving forward. Quickly going to the actual presentation, we have got the table of contents, which reads as follows. Number 1, we've got the purpose of the presentation. Number 2, we've got the objectives of the Integrated Development, Youth Development Strategy. Number 3, we've got the context of the strategy. Number 4, we talk about the youth demographics. We all know that unemployment rate is very high, so we'll see today at least when it comes to the youth unemployment. Then we've got 5 pillars. Uputi from the office of the MEC, I think he has highlighted in 2 or 3 of the pillars that we should be focusing on them, while least we're trying to develop our own departmental youth strategy. We move to the IYDS process plan, and then we move to monitoring and evaluation, and also lastly, we talk about the recommendations. Then the purpose of this presentation, the purpose is to present the draft Integrated Youth Development Strategy to the Cabinet for approval. That was the purpose, so that at least we do have guidelines on how to work together as stakeholders, including private sector and other departments, government departments. So we need something that will guide us on how to work together. Then moving on, we've got objectives for the integrated youth development strategy. Number one, we're saying the IYDS seeks to serve as a blueprint for practical implementation of the National Youth Policy 2030. As you plan along, it's one of the guidelines that you will use when you're planning for your own departmental youth strategy. You'll also have to consult on the youth policy, National Youth Policy 2030. Number two, we're saying this IYDS seeks to provide partnership for stakeholders engagement, thus enabling collaboration between public, private, and civil society organizations. As I said earlier on, that we cannot do it alone. If we are in government sector, we are in a public sector, then we also need a private sector. We also need private businesses as well. Yeah. Then number three, we're saying this IYDS seeks to create a more youth-friendly, supportive regulatory environment for the government sector. Then these are some of the objectives of the youth development strategy. Then we're saying we also seek to provide the catalytic programs designed to benefit youth, especially from disadvantaged backgrounds, e.g. rural areas, youth with disabilities, and also young women. So our focus mostly, we're saying let's take into consideration the rural areas, the youth with disabilities, and also young women. Moving forward, we're also saying this youth development strategy seeks to coordinate youth-focused programs across all sectors in order to provide the youth with the coordinated package of services. We move along, we're also saying one of the objectives is to track youth development programs implemented by public, private, and also civic society organizations. These are the objectives. Then these are the objectives of the youth development strategy. Then we continue saying that the youth development service provision in South Africa is guided by a comprehensive policy. As I said earlier on, that there are policies that you will use while least you creating, or at least you planning you developing your own departmental youth development strategy. We're saying the development of the integrated youth development strategy 2022 to 2025 is aligned to the National Youth Policy 2030 approved by the cabinet. I've already mentioned that you still use those relevant legal framework like your policy, your National Youth Policy. Then we're saying also the successful implementation of the National Youth Policy 2030 depends on the integrated youth development strategy, meaning that we all need to work together in order for us to be able to achieve those objectives of the National Youth Policy 2030. We're saying the IYDS plus the youth at the center of the country's development agenda. The last point we're saying, but it sets out how government working with youth, communities, public sector, labor, civil society, and the private sector will ensure support for young people. As I said earlier on, that we cannot do it alone. We need to work together as government department, including private sector. As much as it's not easy, but we must form those relations in order for us to be able to achieve the National Youth Policy objectives. Then moving to the next slide, this is the continuation of the objectives of the integrated youth development strategy. We're saying the strategy guides government at national, provincial, and local level, civil society, and private sector to initiate programs for youth development that are aligned in the national priorities. It also provides for targeted youth development programs initiated by government, businesses, and also civil societies. Then we also saying the strategy creates a framework within which all youth-related work in South Africa can be coordinated to avoid duplication and maximize impact. I so wish we can stick to that point prior kweza objectives, because you'll find out in most cases some of activities that we do, or some of the services that we offer in Kubandabachi, you will find out even other government departments, we are also doing the same thing as also NYDA, and you'll find out, ngelinye ixesha, for example, the office of the premier, I used to work closely, more especially in these sessions. You'll find out in some of the sessions this is attended, they're supposed to be at least coordinated by NYDA as a custodian of youth, but sometimes offered by government departments at the same time. NYDA is offering the same services. We're also saying this IYDS allows the coordination, monitoring and evaluation and reporting of the interventions implemented by all stakeholders in a systematic fashion. Then the last point, we're saying young people were extensively consulted through various platforms across the country at the provincial and national level, where they were given an opportunity to participate and provide input and recommendations on the strategy. I believe we all need this old youth when we have these sessions. While this in the seventh for NYDA, let me buzo katata from the office of the MEC. The right people and the right people. So I think we also need these old youth when we have these sessions. Moving forward, we do have, this is what we have when it comes to demographics, youth demographics. In total, this is, we're sitting at, we have got the total SA youth population, which is 57.7 million. Then we have got, underneath we have got unemployment rate, which we're sitting at, nationally we're sitting at 35.3%. Then we have got also between the ages of 15 to 24, we're sitting at 63%. So while least you're planning your own youth strategy, so these are the things that we need to take into consideration while least we saying we want to reach those that are not assisted. Then between the ages of 26 to 35, we're sitting at 42.1%. And then on overall youth unemployment rate, so we really need to work hard. We're sitting at 65.5%. That's the total of the youth that is unemployed. So we really need to work hard. So we've got other detailed demographics for youth per province, as you can see on the slides. On the slide, and then we've got per province the percentages of unemployment. If you look at, as we said that we're sitting at, in overall the youth is sitting at 20.6 million, then the 35%, which is 35.7% youth between the ages of 15 to 35. Then per province, and then we have been given the percentages of youth unemployment in terms of our provinces, as you can see. Then lastly, when we're talking about the youth demographics, then we've got which is the Black African, the percentage, we're sitting at 85%, and then we've got the colored, we're sitting at 8%, and then we've got white, which is 5%, and then we've got Indian, which is 2%. This is the percentage is based on the youth that is unemployed in our country, across the country. I hope you will take it into consideration when planning for this session from this afternoon. Moving forward, we've got 5 pillars that we're saying in order for us to be able to achieve our objectives, while least we're planning for, while least we're developing our own departmental youth strategy, we need to take into consideration these 5 pillars. On those 5 pillars, Mr. Mnanda from the office of the MEC has touched on some of the, for example, the quality education, which is the first one, the skills and also second chances. Now, he has already touched on that one when we talk about the quality education, skills and also second chances. Now we need to make it a point that all the programs that we planning to have in our youth forum, they must speak to, or they must be guided those five pillars. Are we still clear, ne? All right. The second point, we're talking about the economic transformation, entrepreneurship, and also job creation. We also working with government departments, private sector, and so on. Then in terms of entrepreneurship development, NYDS is also offering some of the programs that we're targeting to develop young entrepreneurs. We've got a number of programs that non-financial, and also a grant program that we use to buy the equipment for young entrepreneurs. So as the new youth forum, you can still tap in our programs or rope NYDA whenever you go when it comes to these programs. Then we've got also number 3, physical and mental health promotion, including mitigating against pandemics. Then it's one of, while list we're saying where the previous speakers, they've mentioned about the drug abuse and other things that are affecting abantu abatsha. We also need to make sure that we take into consideration while list we're planning we developing our departmental youth strategy. Then we've got social cohesion and also nation building. We must have programs that they speak to youth when it comes to social cohesion and also nation building, sorry. Then the last pillar, and then we've got effective and responsive youth development machinery. Then as NYDA, we need to make sure that we play our role, including the government departments. This is not our baby alone. So we must work with government department to ensure that we implement this integrated youth development strategy 2022 to 2025, guided by the National Youth Policy. Now we've got, when we move to the first, which is the first pillar, then we have mentioned, which is quality education skills and second chances. We're saying we've got few points that we have highlighted. We need to promote more effective approaches to teach development such as professional. I'm supposed to be wearing glasses, sorry. But I'm supposed to be wearing glasses, sorry about that. That's why I'm reading here and also reading on the slide. So we're saying under the quality education skills and second chances, we're saying we also need to promote more effective approaches to teacher development such as professional communities of learning and also technology enhanced in service training. Then we also need to promote entrepreneurship in TVET colleges through the establishment of hubs. Out of the, how many TVET colleges do we have in the province? How many TVETs? Zingapi? 5, 6. We've got Buffalo City, we've got Ikala, we've got Lovedale, we've got King Insa, we've got the one that is in Alfrenzo. Ingwe, I think we've got about 5 TVET colleges. KSD, we've got 6. And then out of 6 TVET colleges that we've got, 2 of them already, they've got the entrepreneurship hubs. So in Trisani, which is Ikala, they do have an entrepreneurship hub. Then in Lovedale, in Alice, I think they also do have an entrepreneurship hub. We're working very close to make sure that at least those that are around those hubs, they've got easy access to be assisted when it comes to entrepreneurship development, be it in terms of the training, be it in terms of access to information. So we make sure that those that are around those hubs, they get easily access, not forgetting about those that we also service in the rural areas. So we do have a partnership with those TVET colleges. We also saying, number 3, we're saying introduction of coding and also robotic curriculum. Then I think you'll find out we're still having, when you visit these tertiary institutions, your TVET colleges and also universities, you'll find out there are qualifications as and then when you finish those qualifications, we need to look on those things. You look, for example, HR. If you go to these TVET colleges, as much as after they've completed their N6 and level 4, they need to place them. so that they're being exposed in the work environment. When you go to them, they will say, we do have a budget, but for not we have already exhausted the budget for HR. Now we have left with business management and other courses that they offer in the college. Now, when you look at the numbers of the people that they've got N6, they need to be trained, then the number is very high, whereas they've already exhausted their budget when it comes to placing those students. So we also we really need to look on that when we are addressing these things, when it comes to the career guidance and so on. So we also need to plan along these things that affects our youth. Then we also saying we also need to increase through improved collaboration with universities and the Funza Lushaka Pasari program, ensure that enough young teachers with the right skills join the teaching profession and ensure that they safe and their safety in their townships. Then we're also saying under the quality education, you need to plan along increase the number of schools with rich minimum physical infrastructure, norms and standards. These are the things as a province, as Niaz Ndobana, Sisemakai. So we need to make sure that there are programs that aimed at improving those schools, while least we're planning, while least we're developing your departmental youth strategy. Then another point we're saying we need to develop we need to develop an intervention to mitigate high dropout rates, especially from grade 10 and also grade repetition. So these are the things that we need to look at when we talk about the quality education, skills and also second chances. Then we also saying that we also need to leverage ICT related programs to support learning. Let's make use of the SITAs, for example. I was in Stexprate sometime last week, and then the number of young people that they've got businesses, but when it comes to the basic business management skills, when it comes to compliance with other, which is your SARS and other legal requirements for them to be entrepreneurs, you'll find out they are lacking. So we need to make sure that at least we do plan along those lines. Then when it comes to, for example, we've got SITAs as well. Service SITA is also offering the business management training, cooperative governance training, and also some skills on business management online. So we need to make sure that we make use of that, and then when we plan along those lines. Then we also need to, we're saying we need to deal with socio-economic challenges that impact negatively on outcomes. Then we need improving access to ECD, which still not universal, despite studies showing that it impacts positively on later learning. Then we also need to improve access to post-school education training, and this is where the private sector has to scale up its effort to support skills development, entrepreneurs, and also supplier development. We have been engaging in local communities, there's other government departments, more especially the Office of the Premier, when it comes to supplier development and also entrepreneur development. So we have been engaging in those programs, more especially in the province. Then we've got also number 2, economic transformation, jobs and also entrepreneurship, which also one of the pillars of the integrated youth development strategy. Under the economic transformation, jobs and entrepreneurship, we say we need to create jobs through job summit commitments, Operation Pakisa and other public sector employment programs. Now we need to make sure that when we plan along those lines. Number 2, we're saying we need to implement a comprehensive presidential youth employment intervention and operation Vulindlela, create an enabling environment for employment through policy and regulations, review BBBE to support worker empowerment and establish legislation for worker community and historical disadvantaged individuals' ownership. We also need to expand government spend on women, youth, and persons with disabilities through preferential procurement point system. Everywhere we go, we're saying young people with disabilities, they must benefit in those programs. So when we're planning It means asizubalibala. We're not forgetting them when we do our planning. Let's make sure that they are part and parcel. Then we're saying also stimulating economic growth through supporting entrepreneurship. As I've said earlier on that almost every government department or institution now, we do have programs to make sure that those young entrepreneurs, they are being developed. Then another point, we're saying encourage employment creation and economic inclusion of young people into mainstream economic activities. The last one, we're saying expanding public employment schemes, including the proposed youth brigades. So these are some of the points that we need to take into consideration while we're planning under the economic transformation, jobs and entrepreneurship. Then we've got also physical, mental health, including mitigating against pandemics. And then we're saying on that integrated youth development strategy, we're saying roll out the quality health improvement programs in public sector facility to ensure that they meet the quality standards required for certification and also coordinating for NHI. We also saying we need to take into consideration, we also saying drive national health awareness and healthy lifestyle campaigns to reduce the burden of disease and ill health. Then we're saying we also need to establish provincial nursing colleges with satellite campuses in all 9 provinces. How many do we have? How many do we have in our province? Lilitanando. So whatever that we plan, we need to make sure that those that are interested in the field, they've got easy access. So that must be a homework while least we're still going to the breakaway session. We also need to address the increasing mental health issues amongst the youth. The previous speakers, they've also touched on that. In most cases, drug abuse plays a role. So we also need to make sure how do we keep those young people out of drugs. So whatever that we plan should include those things. Another point, we're also saying expand the primary health care system by absorbing over 50,000 community health workers into the public health system. Then we're saying also we need to advocate for full implementation of the NSP or GBVF by stakeholders, by all stakeholders. Also promote sexually and also reproductive rights. Another point, we're saying support implementing of healthy, positive lifestyle. Government to implement the national health insurance to benefit young people, including young people. And then we're saying targeted programs on adolescents, sexually and also reproductive health and also rights, including addressing teenage pregnancy and also risk behavior. Then the last point, we're saying targeted programs to address substance and alcohol abuse amongst young people. Then we move to another pillar, which is the 4th one, which is the social cohesion and also nation building. Then under social cohesion, we're saying we need to promote the celebration of national days on the intercultural basis, fully inclusive of all South Africans. Then we also need to advocate for transformation in sport and recreation, promotion of national identity, utilizing the flag of national days, major cultural and also sporting events, the schools and also the monument flag project and also I'm the flag campaign. Then we're also saying we need to promote Constitution and its values in schools, awareness campaigns. We also need to print and electronic media, public engagement and dialogues. We also saying we need to improve the enforcement of the Employment Equity Act and also sector targets. We also saying we also need to increase the support in the creative industry through the Mzansi Golden Economy Project, implementing heritage legacy projects to transform the national heritage landscape. Then we need to advocate for transformation in sport, recreation, sports, SITA, to facilitate placing and also coaching at schools to promote sports at schools, fostering leadership and also active citizens. Harness the alternative ways to use the participative, e.g. digital platforms. Then last point, we're also saying under social cohesion, government and civil society should develop programs that provide intellectual learning and raise awareness around xenophobia. So these are the points that we also need to take into consideration while least we're doing our planning for our own departmental youth strategy. Then I think this will also guide you when it comes to your planning. This will also guide you when you go to the breakaway sessions for planning. Then social cohesion and nation building continues on that slide. We're talking about the gender-based violence and femicide. We're also saying youth voices must be included in the strategies to stop gender-based violence. We need to make sure in all the programs that we're offering, we try by all means, we're addressing the issue. Then young people should be part of decision making and policy signatures structures when dealing with gender-based violence and femicide. We're also saying funding in support of critical activities and services related to addressing gender-based violence across the country. Now it means we also need to take into consideration that expansion of helplines and also information sharing. That's one of the things that we need to take into consideration. Funding shelters and other safe accommodation options for survivors, expansion of access to services for survivors, limiting risk factors associated with violence, and then modification to family law and also justice system. So this is that we should be taken into consideration while least we're trying to plan develop our own departmental youth strategy. Then the last point on those 5 pillars that we have mentioned earlier on, we're saying effective and responsive youth development machinery. As IYDS, one of our role is to make sure that those are implemented. The integration that we're talking about, we need to make sure that we're working together with government departments, we're working together. These are implemented actually. So we need to make it a point, but these are implemented. Then 5.5, we talk about effective and responsive youth development machinery, which is under that we're saying improve interdepartmental collaboration and institutionalize youth work, strengthening the youth directorate. When you go to other local municipalities, you'll find out we do work with special programs unit, but when it comes to other municipalities, you'll find out the directorate, the unit is not yet recognized. There's still special programs unit that needs to be taken to, or that needs to be established. So this is a challenge when it comes to other local municipalities, but we do try to work together to make sure that at least we do service those areas. We also saying we need to see a well-coordinated youth sector, increase the mainstreaming of youth development, better consolidation of youth development interventions, improve intersectoral collaboration and consolidate voice of the youth. Then these are some of the points that we also need to take into consideration while least we talk about the 5 pillars. We also need to improve financial management capability in the public sector. The last one, we're saying improve coordination between national, provincial, and also local government to improve service delivery. These are the points that 5 pillars that we've said that when you do your youth strategy, you need to take them into consideration. They will guide you on how to make sure that you develop an effective departmental youth strategy. Then number 6, we're talking about the IYDS process plan. Some of the tasks that are completed, then assess the youth development landscape in South Africa. We're saying it has been done. Review by documents, including but not limited to 25-year-old review, manifesto, MTSF, etc. Then that has been completed. Then we're saying engaging by the key departments and entities directly involved in the youth development. Also consulted businesses, civil society, organized labor and youth formations. That is also completed, including SAIC. We're working very close with SAIC in the province, in all the district. Actually, we've got good relations. Sisebenza nabo kakhulu kwezi areas siqonda uba kunzima ufikelela kuzo. They play a big role. We also talking about publishing the first draft or IYDS for public comments and also inputs. That has been done. Consulted provincial, national, and locally. That has been done. These are the activities that they've been done when it comes to the integrated youth development strategy. Then we've got some of the guidelines that we will use when it comes to the planning. We've got the stakeholders, or we've got the legal framework as COIOPA, and also stakeholders, SCSL, Sebenzisa Paya. I think I'll also make the presentation. I'll share also the presentation after the session so that we can plan looking at the presentation. Then monitoring and evaluation, we're also saying each year progress report on the IYDS presented from 2022 to 2025. Then we also, each year forum will be convened biannually from 2022 to 2025. Status of the youth report will be prepared and submitted to presidency. Then we've got the last slide, we've got the recommendations. It is recommended that Cabinet approve the integrated youth development strategy for implementation by government, civil society, and also the private sector. This is what I've got for you. I'm hoping that it will assist us while least we are still here in the session and also planning moving forward. I think I'll also be part tomorrow. I'll also be here tomorrow to take part in the process of making sure that we have got an effective departmental youth strategy. I thank you, Program Director.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maobe. Can we give him another round of applause? The engineer in me was cracking his mind and trying to plan how are we going to do this thing. So you made my life so easy. We're going to use your presentation to facilitate the whole planning thing, looking at those 5 strategies so that in the breakout sessions, sisebenze sezona. Oh, thank you. So according to the program, we're now on the plenary. I'm guessing this is where we're planning the breakout sessions, correct? So I'm not going to be the one speaking. It's going to be around the house, so that how can we go about planning this plenary session and focusing on those 5 pillars that the gentleman has just alluded to, NYDA. It's on the floor now. Thank you. I'm going to take hands of suggestion. How are we going to go about with the planning?
No, I think, colleagues, my suggestion, okay. No, I'm saying, colleagues, my suggestion is that because we're still going to after get presentations from the programs. Remember, we invited the programs, Mr. Dingwayo, the colleagues from EPWP, yeah, and other colleagues are here for that. I think also program 2 will do that. Maybe let's open up this session for all the inputs that have been made. We did receive an input from Mr. Kufa on behalf of the HOD. We've just received the input from the colleague Yagwa NYDA. And yeah, is there another input that I'm missing? Yes, the input from the office of the MEC. Let's allow colleagues to reflect on those, and then Secretariat, what we're doing as the reflections come up and we're talking on those, we then isolate issues that will then go into the group discussions. And I think I agree with you, the presentation by NYDA has made things easier for us in that we will take from those pillars, I'm suggesting, colleagues, we take from those pillars, we look at the issues that would have come out of this session, and then we find a way of aligning our group discussions with the pillars, and then infusing the issues that would come out from this plenary.
Yeah. Liquid. Nanje man me apha ndikhangele isandla.
Thank you. And then the ice break, I'm trying to call it this way. I think in the CBK, come present where you are to most of the colleagues as a youth and maybe kuthiwa kwinto yonke ke eyenzekalayo umntu, if you're learning from someone who's your mentor, uzawuthatha izinto ezirayithi for wena uziyeke ezinye. So ndizama ukuthi ke out of the presentations that were here, there are certain things that we picked up on that we felt spoke to us as a team. So let's, if nje without a fear of being scared to discuss the issues, let's indulge on some of the presentations and what is it as young people etetanathi kwezi presentation says we, so that as banabantu bevuka bethetha about the issues that they feel critical kubo as young people, nabanye bazawufumana the freedom to start talking, because there's nothing wrong okanye onoyithethe bhekecaleni, but we want to hear these inputs, because these inputs are going to form a greater plan of what you will be doing in the next financial year. The department needs to fund some of the plans that you have. So, what is your vision? Where do you want to go as this team? And the foundation is there such that let's discuss, let's reflect. This is what I think about it. This is how I feel about it. This is how we can improve it. To have momentum going forward. So I think I just wanted to provide that icebreaker so that the members are free. I understand my session here we discuss in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quench. Yeah, no, the hands are coming, the ice is broken.
Thanks, Chairperson. I'm also wanting to see that at the end of this session, maybe we talk much on the, not in absorption in a way, because we are running programs as the department. For example, we are doing an UPCOT program. UPCOT program has two legs. It is a professional side of it and also the artisan side of it. On the professional side, these kids are given the bursaries. Then after that, they come and work with the department. They got trained by the department. At the end of the day, this youth is released to be out there. The same thing applies to the UPCOT program as well. This youth is trained, invest a lot of money to train those youth people. Then at the end, after they pass trade tests, they are going out. I'm not saying, Mr. Kofa, that we want all of them to be absorbed, but at least a certain percentage of the youth that we have, the department has invested into, must be
at least taken into consideration that at least 1% or 5% of those youth that have been trained by the department, there must be set aside a space for them to be employed by the department. Is one of the things that I would like to see more on the outcome of our discussion going forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Narcissus. Your point, my brother, in Kumuza, we had a session for candidates. The same point came up, and then the answer was that work cannot be guaranteed, but it's up to an individual to prove themselves that indeed they want to be part of the department. So, iphinde futhi lale kuthi iphinde futhi yena.
Mandipulise xa ndixoxesha lam kusemveli kwemini. It is very fruitful. Masiqale phaa kwi-outgoing structure. It is open-minded. Kangangoba ndithanda i-background, the referencing, indeed, youth yakudala ukuza generation to generation. Ibiyazi uba ifuna ntoni. Kutheni xa kuthethwa ngento ye-mental health, honestly, we are kule generation sikuyo, ndithanda ukuyibeka njengesintu, singamanxila on a daily basis. Umuntu omtsha ngoku ubonakala njengomntu ongesiso isibonelo kumntana okhulayo. Having this session kusivula indlela yokucinga. Luckily phaa kwa DPWP mna ndingundyebo kabonde e-OR Tambo, sinazo ii-ideas ezincedisayo. Umzekelo njengoba sinayo i-program phaya esele building maintenance program, but ngoku ndiyibona isiza kakhulu kwi-urban areas, of which we believe abona bantu i-poverty kakhulu iphaa ezilalini. Ukuyaqaphela siyanyuka size ezidolophini sonke sizama uba sifumane ubomi obungcono, sishiya ezaa ndawo sikuzo. Ndinethemba loba xa ngaba siphuma apha sawube noko sinayo enye iprogram esingayi-edisha incedisane nezi sezikhona. Enkosi.
There was a hand.
Molweni kwakhe. Igama lami nguMalibongwe. I might come across as someone that stands to sort of rebut what the previous speaker just said. However, that was not my intention. My question is, in fact, I have a question than an opinion at this stage. How often do the documents that were shown to us, are they revised and audited and questioned with regards to the numbering, or rather the stats they portray? Because I personally come from an urban setup. I come from Motherwell, a township in PE. And quite frankly, I never knew about the Department of Public Works until there was an advert on the Daily Sun for NYS students. And I'm a product of EPCOT, by the way. So how often do we revise these documents and adopt them as newly and revised information that feeds the notion and the narratives that govern the department's plan of actions? Because I was saying to my colleague as the program was going on that it's sad that we are sitting here and look, it's not quite sad, but it's an eye-opener for me that the initiatives are aimed at rural areas, and we in the urban areas are left out completely. We don't know about the department. As a result, Sarah Batman in PE has officials that I could count on this hand, Singapore, the officials that come from that area, that are working in that department. Everyone, Queenstown, everyone, like Far East. So how often do we then revise and go back to the drawing board that the challenges in our department or in our province are looking like this, and this is where we need to tighten up, and this is where we need to loosen up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first thing is that I agree with my colleague over here, but where's the department? I personally feel we need to go out to schools where we actually need to show that there is a life beyond school. And when I say this, it's actually in the sense of not everyone is a mathematician, a scientist. Not everyone is going to go to varsity and do accounting, do business, do HR. Some of the schools don't have that privilege of showing like the youth, or let's call it the matriculants, that they can go to varsity. They need to show that sometimes it's alright. You can be a bricklayer and you can enjoy what you do. You can be a plumber, you can enjoy what you do. There's something beyond just varsity and then, yes, conventional education. A lot of the children don't know that. We need to actually educate and take it out to the schools, especially those disadvantaged schools. They don't have resources, I understand that. But we need to get across that. Here's the opportunity. Take it. Let's provide them. Not sensationalize them, but actually show that there's a life beyond just going to tertiary education.
Thank you for those. They're contributions, they're not just questions. We've got 7 minutes. I'm taking 1 hand, 2, 3, Mr. Timoy. Okay. One penny clash was spoiled. Let's start here. Sorry, no. Sorry. You'll be after Mr. Timoy.
Okay, thank you. Good day, colleagues. I am Lula Gantwane from Sarah Batman. I think from what has been said by the speakers throughout the day, what I would like to come out of this is how do we support the youth, us as well as those who are out there with the management of mental health. Because in my space, I see a lot of youth employees who are in their verge of losing their jobs. Some have already lost their jobs because they couldn't manage mental health, that may have or is resulting into them maybe siding with abusing substance. And that it contributes then to the unemployment rate again, because they get out of the employment to being unemployed again. So how do we make sure that the ones that we are assisting out there with getting into the corporate world, how do we make sure that they keep that as it is, and they are contributing to, again, back to the society? Because we find out that the families, when you visit them, they're actually complaining that they are not being useful, because they are rather the ones who are already abusing the family that they're supposed to be supporting by what they are being given out by the employer. So how do we support each other as well as those who are outside? Because the stresses that you have today, if you were to compare to them, if they are compared to the youth maybe from the 1950s, the mental health we have now, it is equal to a person in the 1950s that would be admitted into a mental institution. But still, we carry on daily with that amount of stresses. We are not admitted to mental institutions. We're carrying on. How do we support each other then in moving forward? I'd like that to be at the center of our discussions in this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, but.
Thank you, Chair. I like the fact that we're beginning to ask questions.
if you're going to provide any solutions, you need to start asking the questions. So the aim of the session is to invoke your mind to start asking the questions, so that you then, as a team, begin to come up with solutions for your very own questions. Remember, when I started presenting who we were, we asked two questions, who and what. We started with questions so that we can develop into plans that we want to achieve. So what I take from this is that we understand that there's a skills shortage. My brother there touched upon that issue. And how do you begin to bridge the skills gap? Myself in the construction sector, working with most contractors, I know that in South Africa there are no bricklayers that can lay face brick currently. If you need bricklayers, you take Zimbabweans almost on weekends, and then you beat them. You are saying they are taking your jobs, but you cannot do the work. They are our same brothers, by the way. So we need to partner with colleges. In PE, you partner with the college next door, so that when we begin to recruit for UPCOD, we know that there are partnerships that are in place. Working through the EPWP office, we are visible because we are artisans. We are visible there. We are dictating the curriculum. We are building those colleges such that the products that are coming out of those colleges are ready for the job market. They may not necessarily reside within public works alone. They can go into the broader market, but they are ready. You touched on an issue of advocacy, so to speak, like the programs are good, but they're not reaching the masses that they need to reach. It's your baby. It's your responsibility. We are saying as the department, youth run with a program that will communicate the programs that the department has. So you need to take initiatives of saying, in Motherwell, if I'm central S6, I can be able to coordinate a number of the schools there, in one hall, and be able to bring them around, teach them what the department offers. Not limited to the department. You call other departments, you partner with them. You call institutions around, colleges, varsities. We partner and we ensure that the information goes there. Battlestop and the like. One of the key issues, I like the fact that there's a Khoi person representing Sarah Batman, because one of the key issues that I was always saying that if we're going to speak transformation of blacks or Africans rather going into the job market, transformation of females participating into the market. If you're looking at the Sarah Batman area, let us also look at the transformation of ensuring that Khois are part of the setup. Because I think most of the Khois, when I was running or moving along Sarah Batman, just the communities alone, engaging with the communities, you can feel that they are not feeling part of government. They feel isolated by government. No MEC or anyone special is going to come and bridge that gap. If someone needs to go and sick, no one is going to bridge that gap. You are the foot soldiers of the department. That will make it a point that in your very same communities where you are working, the department has a footprint. We will see in my own place, as programs, busy departments and so it means that if we're going to do it, we need to take the initiatives of making sure that they get the information. So let's ask the questions, but let's keep these questions for our breakout sessions so that we then start developing programs for next financial year that will speak to what you're going to do as a collective team. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's close with my brother in the white t-shirt.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Mlingani Changana and I am from Echokali. Mine is not a question per se, but more a general comment. I think for the incoming guys who are sort of going to be championing the youth per se, I think we need to review the lessons learned from the outgoing, if I may put it like that, the committee. Because I think most of those issues that the previous committee would have faced are issues that the current committee that is going to be elected are going to face. We need to review what worked for the previous committee and what didn't. In that way, we sort of can be able to overcome the challenges. Not saying that there are many things that the previous committee didn't do, but we'll be able to better do them if Zikona isn't or that didn't work well. Now, I think this could also be done through an ongoing, through iterations of, let's say we plan our retrospectives and say that each and every time we are going to sit and check whether our current ways of doing things are working towards basically information sharing to youth. Now, that can be done, as I think most of us here are able to identify the issues that the youth is facing. Now, it's not enough to just identify those issues. We need to decompose those issues in order of the priority and find out the root causes as to why we have these problems that the youth is facing. I think that way, if we do it ngolo hlobo, we should be in a better position to move forward, because we will have identified what is working, what isn't working, do better what isn't working. As I said, decompose the issues that we have identified that the youth is facing. And in that way, we'll sort of be able to create a checklist of what we are doing, what we aren't doing, and focus more on the things that we aren't doing correctly so that we better do them. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. D. Masi Valengawadat.
Thanks for going, Director. I would be looking at what the program director just said. Firstly, I had to Mr. Ngwensha when he was presenting, and more especially when he was commenting. He also mentioned that there's a shortage of bricklayers in South Africa. They're using foreigners. The question that comes to our mind, why? Why there's a shortage? You must ask those critical questions. The collapse of the state start so small, so little. Someone somewhere saw it and saw that there was going to be a gap and did nothing about it. For instance, we are in an infrastructure department called Public Works and Infrastructure. How much of the projects are we implementing as the department? We're utilizing the internal capacity. That is those questions that we're supposed to ask as young people that are trying to solve problems that are created by the so-called baby boomers and X generation. Because I believe that the majority of you in this hall, you are the millenniums, the Z generation and Y generation. Then the problems that are facing this country right now in the province are caused by us, X and big boomers. So if you want to resolve the challenges that are facing, you must ask critical questions and come with solutions that will be tangible, will have a program of action. If, as a youth forum that is coming today, maybe one element that you can do is to review the operating model or business model of public works. The excessive tendering that is happening within this department. I'm in HRT. I'm responsible for human resource development in this department. I'm privileged to know that this department is spending over 100 million on development programs, starting from candidate program, graduate internship program, upcourt program, NYS, you name it. We are paying stipend and salaries. These guys obtain their professional status in the form of in those disciplines, and some of them they obtain their trade test. Do we utilize them? No. They go to private sector. They go open their companies. They are tendering. Then, if we're going to continue with that practice, the unemployment will always increase. The little few that are capitalists, they will be having a lot of money because these tenders are so expensive. As young people that are here that are qualified by your own right, that are having, majority of you as some are candidates that will obtain their professional status within 18 months. If this department can change the way they're operating, then you start implementing projects internally. You'll have work to do. You won't be needed to go in the private sector. That's what you maybe can influence. Because in a Senate man can also support system. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I knew Andy sent Mr. P so far on a high note. We're going to go for lunch now. And then when we come back, we're having presentations from the different programs. But my 2 cents, just my contribution in this session. My question is, okay, maybe a bit of background. I lost my job in 2020. I spent almost a year at home. My mentor told me, Masande, do what you love, and then money will come to you. So I'm running an NPO that does more than 50% of those 5 pillars. Now my question is, I'm an employee of Public Works. How does my entity do izinto that my employer is doing as an employee of Public Works? Because the risk office and all of those dynamics. But Mr. Kufa, when they were in our region with the HOD, I think it was 2 weeks ago, he kind of answered my question. Galendlela ethi, let us focus on the principles. Singaziluzi the principles. But we can be innovative and do whatever, change policies and all of that, but stick to the principles. Maybe there's a gap here. Because in the principles is corruption. If you stay away from corruption, we are happy for you to do this thing. So maybe that's just another thing I'm putting out there to say, Brilliance Extra Classes wants to put a hand, but an employee of Public Works. Let's go for lunch, and then when we come back, it's presentation. Thank you so much.